Alrighty, what's up guys? Just bringing a video. I want to do a little race recap on my DBR race that I did this past Monday. I'd been coming off a pretty big ride, so I didn't have the freshest legs. I knew that going into it, so that would be a good way to kind of try to race a little bit smarter than I normally do. You struggle with that. I'm probably one of the worst people I know at riding in the draft, and been kind of like one of my little mini goals in most races is to try to work on that a little bit more efficiently. For the race, I just started with a little warm up like this. I kind of did just a couple routes and a pace partner ride. Nothing too crazy to really, I guess, like exert too much energy. More so just trying to warm up those legs. Still trying to dial in my exact like warm up method and really what works best for my body. So far, it seems like kind of like a 30-minute warm-up is pretty good for me. I'll just skip over to the race now. All right, so here we are in the pen at about a minute before the race starts. Took off my jacket, trying to get a little bit cooler down, trying to kind of calm down my heart rate a little bit before the race. These DBR races do attract a lot of hitters, so I was trying to really kind of start off to not the craziest start, but knowing that I'm probably going to have to exert a lot more energy than I really would like to. Pretty casual, obviously warming up, but I've been trying to kind of ramp it up a little bit earlier in my races, so it's not as drastic of a heart rate increase when I start the race. I do normally kind of start to really kick at that last 5 seconds. This I honestly got a little bit late of a start to it. Sitting decently well in the pack kind of right off the bat. Started at about like a watt, or I guess a 6 watt per kilogram, and then kind of moved into a 5 because I know I can hold that for a little bit. Found myself pretty nicely in the pack here, and knew that this route you do not want to lose the front group right off the bat. It's a UCI reverse in Richmond. So it kind of starts off on this flats and then goes directly into a downhill where you want to get a good draft. Then it kind of kicks into 2 really good climbs. These climbs I would say are pretty beneficial to me. I'm a very light rider. Right now I'm at 59.9 kilograms and have a decent amount of power, honestly, for my size. So I know that I can do some big efforts and I have a really good recovery. These 2 climbs, I'm much better on a punchier climb compared to like a much longer distance and holding that like 5-6 watt per kilogram for some time. It's about exactly where I would like to be in the draft. I got to go into a super tuck there, really keeping it kind of mellow and trying to really use as minimal energy. As I said, coming off that big ride on Saturday, I did about 120 miles and 14,000 feet of elevation, so I knew my legs were like 2 days out from that and still not feeling too fresh, but I was kind of hoping they would warm up as we got through the ride. Towards the back of this climb, I let myself drift back a little bit. Honestly, I could be a little bit farther up into the group here, I think, and I'd be benefiting the draft a bit more and not having to exert as much. Kind of gradually climbs here, and then you hit that bottom and it really kicks up. And these races, you really gotta, you don't want to obviously blow your doors off too early, but to be honest, this is my like first, I guess, season racing in the ACATs, and so I'm probably on the lower tier of what some of these people can do, so I'm really pushing my limit on a lot of these races. On this one, I really eased up, I would say a little bit too much at the beginning of the climb, and found myself backing off here, which is not what you want. I'd like to be kind of gradually moving up in through the pack here. So this is when I really noticed, and you can see I kick up to like a 7.5, 8 watt per kilogram here, trying to move up a bit. That punch right there, not what I would have liked to do. I would have liked to hold a steady 7 watt per kilogram or something and really ride efficiently in the pack rather than surging there to get up and over. One person breaks off the front. I'm really not concerned about that this early in the race. There are, I'd say like 3 serious downhills that if you're not riding within the draft is really going to catch you. I found myself in a good position here, and a big part is you want to just carry that speed. You don't want to cut it off right at the top of the first climb, or any climb really. You want to carry your speed that you brought over. So I tried to kind of hold like a 4 watt per kilogram, I believe, here. Trying to hold myself steady in the pack, and then got right into that super tuck and coming up onto that second good climb. Drifted back a little bit, not the worst. Here I need to ease off a bit and get more efficiently in the pack. That's something I find myself consistently doing, is I'm either on it or I'm not. Meaning that I'm either pushing too high watt per kilogram, that I'm getting shuffled out to the side of the peloton, not what you want, you're losing a lot of that draft, or I'm playing like a catch-up game and I let myself fall too far back, and then I have to exert more energy again, get back onto the peloton. There I let myself drop too far back again, and really had to exert another kind of match there, trying to catch back onto the group, knowing that I could not lose this group this early on or my race would be done. The second you lose the big peloton, generally in these, that's kind of, your race is done there. Tried to hold more of a steady watt per kilogram, try to catch that little front group up there. And really, a lot of people will let off easy here, knowing that it's flat, but I think kind of carrying that speed is pretty important. Also, being a lighter rider, on the downhill, people will fly by me. Just having more mass, they just don't have to exert nearly as much energy, or can even not pedal, and they'll still be passing me while I'm still putting out more energy. Found myself at the front of the group. This is kind of exactly where I'd like to be, honestly. They've gotten to a super tuck here. Yep. Should have pedaled a little bit here to keep my kind of position good, I think. Let myself drift off a little too far back. As you can see, those bigger riders, the bigger mass, they really just gain speed on me really quick. Then I realized, oh no, I have to get back onto that peloton, not lose that. That would be kind of end of race. Found myself drifting back, but I could honestly catch back up pretty easily because everybody was having a nice little rest here. Through this area, I'm just trying to really focus on getting my heart rate down, knowing that I'm going to need some longevity in the race. I believe in a moment here, somebody really tries to kick off the front. I'm not really too worried about a breakaway going this early in the race, as long as other people don't really work with him. So one person is probably not going to do it. But if you get a group of like 5, they're all really determined, there can be a serious threat. This is that undulation that I really wasn't expecting. I was going to have to throw down some power. All of a sudden it kicked up, and I felt that that guy was really starting to get away, but then noticed that the pack really wasn't too worried about it. So just tried to ride efficiently, but as you can see, I'm kind of slowly falling back in the pack, not what you want. Here I would say I really should have been, I'm at like a 4.2 watt per kilogram right there. If I'm riding at a 3, I would be carrying almost the same speed once I get up and over that climb, and riding more efficiently in the draft. Something I've been doing kind of on the side is trying to do 8 pace partner rides and really work on riding efficiently in the draft rather than just like powering the muscle and trying to just do more work. Really, I think my goal now, focus on how I can do the least amount of work and still get a good result. As you can see, one rider's very far off the front, but still, again, not too worried about it. He's going to be having to put a lot more power with this large of a peloton, and there's a lot of strong riders here, knowing that most likely that guy's not going to get away. Especially with those big steep downhills, the peloton will really gain some speed up those. This next climb kind of is a steady, gradual climb, and is, like I was saying earlier, probably not my best, doesn't really fit my profile the best, so I was really trying to ride efficiently in the peloton on the climb, knowing that you're still going to get a serious draft going up this. Looks like one of those guys was thinking about bridging to that guy up front and trying to really make a break for it. Here I didn't really know what people were going to be putting down for power, so this was kind of a guessing game at where I was going to have to sit, if it was going to be like a 5-6 watt per kilogram climb, or if it was going to be really pushing that 7-8 mark. It looked like, as you can see on the right side, a lot of the people were going at about like a 6.5 to 7 watt per kilogram, so I started to ramp it up, trying to keep onto that peloton, knowing that if I lost it was not going to be a good time. And I see on the map profile that it has a good kicker and then kind of flattens out for a bit, so most likely a good recovery time, and then goes up for another big climb, or well, not really big climb, but more of a gradient. This was a good recovery time, trying to hold like a 4 and just ride a little bit smart for a second, catch my breath, and then knowing that I'm going to have another little kicker to kind of stay with the group there. The field is getting pretty stretched out with a couple people thinking about doing that bridge to that front rider up front. I still really wasn't too worried about it unless all these 4 guys got into a group and started rotating really well. This large of a mass and there's some good flats up above. I think if we were to ride efficient smart back, we would have a really good chance of catching them, so I wasn't worried. Where I start to ramp up again, knowing that the gradient climbs up again, we're all gonna have to put out some watts. I can already tell that some people are getting tired. The group's really starting to get stretched out. I was up to a 175 ppm so far. My highest I've hit is like a 185. So I am pretty high on the heart rate scale for me this early into the race, but there's a mad block of recovery coming up here. This part of the race was kind of tough for me because I was like, do I have to close that gap because it looks like another group is going to form up front. I'm still riding again too far out of the draft, pushing more watts than I need to, and the people right next to me are going the same speed and holding a 4 watt per kilogram. So I either had to make a decision, back it off, ride smart, or try to do a couple more watts than the people in front, really try to get back into this group. As you can see, I just kept it rolling, tried to get up into that group there, and since I was already carrying so much momentum, I was like, all right, well, I just bridge up to the 2 people in front, and most likely the whole group will reform. As you can see, with that level off, the pack really starts to reform again, and now there's a long block of like a basically false flat until you get into that next steep section down above. It's about like 3 or 4 minutes later in the race. Pack was rotating pretty efficiently. I was probably holding more watts than I needed to and could have rode a little bit smarter and kind of not been putting out as much energy as I was. Here on the side, you can see that guy really ramping up, looking like he's going to do a solid effort to try and close down that next gap. That causes, as in most Zwift racing, some people to kind of flare up their power real quick and think that they're going to try to close it with him, and then realizing most likely not worth it. But definitely increases the whole pack speed, and it was kind of at that point that you realize you're most likely going to be doing a little bit of an effort here and closing down that gap here. Full pack kind of ramps up to a 4 or 5 watt per kilogram, really starts to get spread out here, and kind of like a moment of the race of like, should I sit in and try to race, I guess, a little bit smart and efficiently, or do I stay on top of this charge and try to, it's looking like it's going to form into like a second mini pack here. I reacted a little bit late, so I had to definitely do a little bit more than I would have liked to. At this point I realized, yeah, I need to kind of move up to the front of this pack, roll efficiently, get up through the peloton, and hopefully either put in a good effort to close down that front group. Looks like a lot of people are kind of getting more determined to do a close on. Once I started moving up and still had a lot of momentum with me, I was like, all right, I should probably carry the speed and keep kind of the pace high so that front group is starting to form. It's 2 guys right now, I believe, 3 actually up the front, and most likely if they were really determined to, they possibly could hold off for the front, but there is still like 12.5 miles left, and some 2 serious climbs and 1 solid one. Around this corner is when a lot of people make moves. Kind of hard to react to what's going on when it's going around that corner. I see people are really picking up their speed, and most likely this is going to be another push, and they're going to be trying to close up to that next gap, so I should really be trying to follow some wheels here. Still trying to ride a little bit more efficient. Normally I would probably try to be ramping up crazy hard, but I was trying not to blow too much energy. Tried to sit in the draft, and it was very obvious that we're going to be catching this front group, and most likely those front guys were going to kind of not give up, but ease off a bit and let the peloton catch them, noting that we were going to catch them at this point. At this point, it was very obvious we're obviously catching them right now. One of them says empty legs, not a good sign for them. Keep rolling the pace high, trying to in a way counter those guys that just did that big effort and hopefully shed off some riders from the pack. Right, here we are past the first lap banner. Nothing really interesting happened. Got my heart rate down from about, I was at like 150, 160s, back down to under 140. Riding in a very comfortable zone 2 ride, so hopefully freshened up the legs a little bit there, knowing that I'm gonna have to really exert some energy in these next 2 climbs. And really, these are, if I'm risking falling off the back, I got to give it all I got just to stay with the group, because if not worth doing the race so much. We are going into that next first climb, knowing that I'm gonna have to kind of ramp up the speed a little bit, start pedaling again, trying to stay with the peloton kind of ahead of things so I don't get dropped off the back on the first climb. There's the easy ramp up before you really hit the KOM banner. And once it starts kicking up in gradient, that's when you know you're really going to have to put down some watts. Knowing last time that I got dropped off the back a little bit, I wanted to stay preemptively on it and try to put a little bit more watts down, but legs were not feeling it right off the bat. Started falling back, noticed I was falling back, and I was like, okay, I have to put down some more power, stay with group. But knowing that the pitch didn't really kick up until about here, this is when I really wanted to put down some power. Got myself nicely in the middle of the peloton there, getting a good draft, but up towards the top is not going to make a difference. Group's definitely holding a little bit less power than it was on the first climb, not surprising. Knowing that everybody was wanting to save a little bit of legs for the sprint climbs we have ahead of us. Here I made a really big mistake for myself. So I was trying to carry my speed over the front of the climb. I like saying, as a light rider, I really do not want myself off the front as a light rider. It's fine here, but most likely, I know that they're going to catch me right on this flat coming up into the climb, and then I'm going to get dropped off the back. Really have to exert some energy. Knowing that was coming, I had to launch it pretty hard. Dropped 11 watt per kilogram there, just trying to stay with the group and get back in. That's another one of those matches burned that I probably could have used a little bit later in the race. Definitely would have saved me some energy and been more beneficial then. I'm trying to play catch up for a second here, but got a nice little slingshot coming into this climb. Starting to feel the effect of that big watt per kilogram I had to put down earlier, and starting to fall off the back. It looks like the group is going to be splitting up almost. So knowing that I either have to make this little tiny bridge there and hold the group together because don't want to get dropped off the back. Trying to really carry my speed through these like rolling slight inclines here. Move myself back up towards the front of the group. A lot of people will call it quits early and lose a lot of position on that, and will cost you more energy in the long term. Got myself back up to the front here. Back it off a little bit so I don't take the front headwind. Super tuck. I'll slowly drift back in the pack most likely with a lot of the bigger riders. That's okay. Got myself in really good position, I feel like, coming into this big flat section. Still had decent legs, it felt like, for the sprint coming up. But this course is a little interesting with that kind of like big climb, long one. Not crazy long, but longer stretch out than 2 punchers ahead. So knowing that I was still going to have to exert a decent amount of energy, was trying to really focus on recovery again here on this big flat section. Most likely there would be another block of recovery after that next climb. Guy off the front goes. I was kind of thinking about it, and I had 2 people coming up with me, and so I was like, why not? I'll hold it. But didn't want to totally exert too much and have no chance at the sprint. Saw that everybody's numbers behind me on the right were starting to kick up, and most likely this was going to get bridged. Had a little break for a second, but they were going to have more speed, most likely coming into this tiny little kicker, and it was most likely going to get caught, so it wasn't worth really blowing my doors off here. So tried to back it off. If we were really determined, could have went for a very long haul there, but it didn't look like everybody was grouped up in that front pack, so it wasn't going to hold. Looks like those 2 guys are still off the front, but the Wahoo rider is starting to fall back, knowing that they're probably going to get caught, and so not really wanting to exert energy on that break with that guy. Guy off the front, put his head down, put in some work, and starts getting a good gap on us. I think it made the field a little bit nervous, but like I said on that last little climb, it's not steep enough to really still get a good draft on that climb if you are working smartly. So most likely this guy off the front is going to get blown by on like either directly after that after that climb or the flats above it. Where that climb comes in that I don't really like, but I was trying to react to everything off the front, stay in the front group here, thinking that there was a chance that it could break away from here, knowing that I wanted to be in good position to react to anything. Starting to get strung out, knowing that I wanted to be in that front group rider, so kind of trying to make a little bit of a push, hopefully catch on to that group, not get stuck in this second pack. This level off here causes the group to reform a lot of the time. Trying to ease it off, get a little bit of a draft here. We're still going 26 miles per hour, so there is definitely a draft. Group reforms. Wanted to hold my pace just going into this next climb, not back off. You can already see that front rider is starting to get brought back in. So felt pretty confident that we were going to be catching him. See my face in the bottom left. I'm definitely feeling a little bit of the pains now. And you can tell here that he's definitely going to be getting caught. Looks like he's blowing up a little bit. He's putting in a lot more work than most likely he needed to, just because he opted for that breakaway, and the breakaway was just so low, so he didn't have any draft to work with there. For a second, it looked here that this could possibly turn into another small breakaway group from the peloton, so I was trying to hang on to that and see where that went. Kind of found myself in a limbo zone here, and so needed to either close that gap down, get up to those front 2-3 riders. That was a dangerous threat, knowing that there was a high chance that if they really wanted to work that one out, they probably could have rotated for the win if they kept their speed on there. But this group started to shut it down, so I was like, all right, I need to sit in and just follow that up to that front group, close it down, and then most likely there would be a regroup for the final sprint. where I figured I'd try to kind of keep my momentum and hopefully kind of keep the pace high. I'm not the biggest sprinter, so wearing those sprinters out early is what would work best for me. I was hesitating here if I should really try to be pushing up to the front, if that was going to split into another group, but knowing there was a climb, I could kind of slingshot up this if I needed to. Trying to slowly move up towards the front of the pack. That little bit of kicker puts a little bit of pain into the legs. We're really starting to back off here, riding at like a 3-4 watt per kilogram. I kind of held steady at like 4 to 5. Starting to look like this guy might be able to get away, but he's already been off the front a decent amount and holding at like a 5-5. Ramped it up, just trying to stay with that front group. Here I debated on if I should really try to slingshot and maybe hold something to the end on 3 miles, but knowing that we were going to be on this flats, I kind of figured that there was a good shot that the group would catch you. There's a small downhill, and that draft was probably going to be more than I could go up against on myself. Pace of the whole field starting to get kicked up, so that guy in the front's already starting to get brought back here. Field's getting stretched out. Wanted to stay with that front group, pick up my pace a little bit. Most likely it was going to calm back down at last like 0.8 miles with recovery, so everybody had a good sprint on it. That front group starts to get brought back. Tried to hold my speed through them. The false flats here, so still going uphill a tiny bit. Where I should have been trying to sit more in the draft and get a little bit more of a draft going. But he tries to launch a long attack, and that starts the drain. I should have been ramping it up right here, trying to stay with that front group instead of falling back here, so I didn't have to make up so many positions in the end. This is when I realized, oh, this is where it starts. This is where it starts. Okay. 0.3 miles. I just ramp up my sprint. Still way out of the draft. Not where you want to be. Now I'm playing the catch-up game. Knowing that this is going to be the final sprint. 0.2. Try to ramp it up. Give it all the beans. I was too late to react. Already way too far back in the group. Not moving up as I'd like to be. I want to be way up in front. Try to simp this guy at the line and barely do. I think for next time, my biggest thing I need to focus on is ramping it up a little bit earlier. Something I struggle with in staying with that front group, because if you get your speed going high, you don't have to hold nearly as much of a wattage trying to catch up onto it, rather than you just kind of hold a steady state. And I'm not the biggest sprinter, so I'm not really going to be beating anybody to the line. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any suggestions on what else I should do in my videos or how to race a little bit smarter, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much.